Joshua Paladino was the moderator for the 58th District House debate over the weekend. Joshua, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
A little background about you, Hillsdale College through and through, right?
Yes, I've been here 6 years, going into my seventh. Got my bachelor's here starting in 2014, graduated in 2018, and then I graduated last weekend with my master's. And then I'm moving on to the PhD in political philosophy for the next 3 years, and I'll graduate in 2023, hopefully.
So were you involved with the much ballyhooed commencement ceremony at Hillsdale College last weekend?
Yes, I was there. It was nice to have it. Also felt slightly dystopian, but I understand that they wanted to play the game and get it done without irritating the governor too much.
So they walked a fine line there, huh?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much they actually appeased anyone, right, but I think they wanted to make people feel comfortable and feel like they could do what was right in their mind. So I think they chose the right thing to just get it done.
Joshua, how were you selected, I guess, to be the moderator for the House seat race?
I selected myself. The candidates were talking, I was mostly talking with Lauren Fink and Andrew Fink, and they said we need more community involvement around this debate. And so they approached me and said, you should do a debate. But I didn't really know anything. I had never done anything like this in the past. So I just reached out to Scott Bertram at WRFH because I had worked there as an undergrad and did radio shows and as a graduate student briefly. And he said, yeah, I don't know if we do a debate, but you're welcome to do a radio station or a radio show. So I started there, and we interviewed all the candidates for the district court judge races, all the state rep candidates, and then 2 of the 3 sheriff candidates who had come on. And it was such a great turnout. Everyone was way more willing to come on than I thought they'd be. I thought they'd say, who's this nobody grad student? I'm not going to give him my time. But everyone was willing, and when I said, all right, we've had this great turnout for the show, let's do a debate, everyone agreed instantly, pretty much.
What did you think of the turnout?
I was very, very surprised, to say the least. Our Facebook event had 40 people going, and we had 80 chairs from the library. I said, let's not even set them up. It's going to look embarrassing. The crowd is going to be empty. Because how can you trust a Facebook event page? I thought people mark going and then forget about it. Some people said we had 150. Some people said 200, although those were the candidates' families, so they were probably a little biased. But I think 150 is possible, and it shows that there's a desire for politics at the local level where you can actually meet people and get to know them, ensure that the people that are representing us share our values and are willing to answer questions.
Josh Paladino was the moderator of what I have called a very entertaining debate. I've watched a million debates. That was actually one of the more entertaining ones that I've seen, and we'll get to why in a minute. Format-wise, you guys had a plan. Did you come up with a format yourself? Did everybody have to agree to it?
The candidates were also very helpful, and they agreed to the rules. One morning, the candidates said they wanted a format written up, and I said, I've never done anything like this, so I wrote it up one morning, gave them the questions, and they said, sure, that's great. And I think we made maybe a few minor adjustments to the times, but they agreed to what I put right there, and I think it worked out all right.
So they had the questions ahead of time?
They had my questions ahead of time because my questions, I thought, you know what? I'm a journalist, and journalist is the dirtiest word in conservative politics because we know journalists from national politics, and it's horrible. It's destroying our society. And so people think, oh, bad journalist. But I wanted to think, okay, how can a local journalist give a better name to journalism? And I thought, what I'll do is answer give the most basic questions: roads, COVID, taxes, family, in the most straightforward, non-biased way. And then I would throw it to the audience for, I think we had almost 90 minutes of audience questions. And it worked out really well. They texted me the questions, and there were some that I had to sift through, and a lot that I told people I would answer, and I just lost. And the text message thing is probably not the way to go because they get lost very easily. But I wanted to stay out of the debate as much as possible and give the audience the chance to ask the questions, the specific ones.
Our national folks could take some cues from you because they try to see that as a presidential debate or a candidate debate. They see it as a platform to raise their own profile and impress everybody. You just ask questions, man. And in so doing, I thought you really did come off well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's the direction we need to go. And I almost said I am a journalist when I do It's the People's Choice radio show. But there I thought, well, I'm a Republican and a conservative, so I'm not going to try to tear these guys down. Right. I'm going to try to find the best candidate for the people of the 58th District. And I think really the way for me to do that was just to step out of the way, because I don't like it when debates are between a journalist and the candidates. It's just the journalists cannot elect themselves to that position. And also, they're not smart enough to do it in almost all circumstances. They don't have the depth of knowledge that the entire community can bring, right? One person cannot answer all and ask all the appropriate questions that all the attendees can.
I watched most of the debate. I didn't see the entire thing, but what struck me is we have 4 candidates who basically agree on just about everything. I didn't hear any major policy disputes. Is that fair? And if there were any differences, could you tell our listeners and kind of sift through that and tell us where the differences are?
There were differences in policies, certainly, but I thought one of the greatest things was how well they distinguished themselves in terms of their priorities and the type of candidate that they would, or the type of elected official that they would be once they got into office. So we had some major disagreements on abortion, for example. Andy Weldon does not think that abortion should be outlawed. So there was some diversity there. There was some diversity in regard to energy. Some people said an all of the above approach should be incentivized. Others said we should just let the market play it out and transition as the market dictates. So there was all sorts of disagreement on little minor things. But I thought the biggest thing, as I said, was if you could, you really could categorize the candidates afterward, I thought, and say this is the candidate who fits in this sort of box in a way that national election debates don't really ever give you. Everyone just sort of follows the party lines. They say what they're told, and it's really just a personality contest. But in this debate, I thought there were people who said, okay, if these are your priorities, this is your candidate.
I felt like watching the debate that if somebody from outside of town came in and didn't have any context and just sat down and watch it, they would be talking about Darren Wisely at the end of the debate. I thought that he carried the tone. I thought Adam Stockford really basically just agreed with Darren 90% of the time. Darren, and he's talked about it on Facebook a million times. He's very direct. I would say he has a bold style. That's not for everybody, but he's not apologetic about it. He says, this is who I am. This is the kind of representative I would be. How did you think it came off for the crowd, Darren's particular style and the way that he debated?
I would say Darren had the starkest group of supporters and detractors. There was some booing during that exchange with Andrew Fink, which I'm a little bit torn about. I added this section for candidate questions, and I would like to hear more from people how they thought it turned out. I wrote in the rules, let's try to keep it civil. Let's try to draw specifically the differences between the candidates. And I thought the best way to do that was to get the candidates themselves to draw out those differences, because they are the ones who have been looking at each other and trying to figure out how they can distinguish themselves from the others. And, of course, the most received question I got was about Andrew Fink's connection to Citizens for Energizing Michigan's Economy, which is supposedly connected to consumers' energy. So they just brought that up themselves, which I had thought they might. I wish the tone wasn't exactly as it was, but I think a lot of people appreciated it, that he was willing to, Darren that is, was willing to call him out so directly. But there was also, mixed with that very loud applause, some very loud booing of people who thought we don't need this. I assume they thought we don't need this in the Republican Party. We don't need this sort of division in the primary.
So there are a bunch of TV commercials. When I watch YouTube, I see the Andrew Fink commercial all the time, talking about how he has a plan to protect our Christian values. He's taken a lot of incoming on social media from a handful of people who are calling it dark money and saying that he must be beholden to whoever's paying for these ads. Andrew Fink said, I am only beholden to my constituents. I have no... But you know how that goes. Do you think that the average voter in the 58th district cares about this issue? Do you think that when people go to the polls, that will be front of mind? Or is that something that only a handful of people who really follow politics are going to care about?
No, the average voter doesn't care about it. And that's why Andrew Fink is likely going to win the race and is a good politician. He knows that the average Republican primary voter is not going to watch this debate. They are not going to look into the origins of this money. And by the way, I have no idea what the money is. It's extremely hard to say. And personally, I think Andrew Fink and his family are fantastic. But he knows that he's going to get way more airtime from these ads, and the benefit from that is going to vastly outweigh any criticism and any votes that he will lose from really engaged Republican primary voters who are skeptical of this.
I thought that he was the guy that Darren was targeting, and a little bit Adam Stockford as well. Mr. Weldon stayed out of the fray. It was really those three that were engaged in the discussion. I thought Andrew fielded it pretty well. I mean, he tried to make the case, look, I am just making the case for my people. I don't care about the money. I'm not beholden. But everybody's going to say that, right? I mean, nobody's going to say, yes, I am beholden to this secret organization that's paying for my ads. And to be fair, the guy has 1 million ads. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in a 58th district race. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. Andy Weldon gets in the race a little bit late. He's a man who a lot of people in our community respect. He's a farmer and somebody who is well known for that. But his debate style was starkly different from everybody else. He gave 4 or 5 word answers. He did not want the stage. He was extremely straightforward, almost the polar opposite of Darren, right? How did you think his approach came across in that debate?
Andy is a great guy. When he came into my show, the first thing he asked about was, do you like popcorn? And he brought me popcorn later. I don't know if this counts as a bribe to a journalist. He brought me a bag of popcorn. He's the nicest guy. If you think that the solution to our current problems, and I think they are great, I think that America is very divided, and that we have a segment of the population who believes that children should go to school wearing masks and not see their fellow classmates smile, that they should not be able to engage with their fellow classmates. We are talking about 2 different ways of life. If you believe that the answer to that is someone who's going to sit down and listen and have a conversation and try to take in as much information without bias, without preconceived notions, without ideology, then Andy Weldon is your candidate, and it's not close. So I think he's picking a lane, and I think, like Darren, he's picked a lane that is going to be divisive, and it's going to have detractors, and we'll see if it works out for him.
What I like about Andy and Darren, and maybe the other two also, I don't know, but they are not going to apologize for their approach. You're getting the genuine Andy Weldon when he's up there. That's who he is. I think Darren I've known for a while. That's how Darren is. So again, they're giving you the real thing. Adam Stockford, did you feel he got overshadowed by Darren, or is that too strong?
No, I don't think he did. I think he was the winner of the exchange between Darren and Andrew, honestly, because he asked a question respectfully. And I also thought that there's something about his approach that is energetic and passionate, yet extremely composed and rational. And I had heard a lot of criticisms about some of the local sort of non-establishment candidates, if you would say, that they're sort of conspiracy theorists way out there in your face. And 2 of the most composed candidates I've talked to who are the most reserved are probably Adam Stockford and John Paul Rutan for sheriff. And they are just, they keep it to themselves. And if you like that sort of speak softly, carry a big stick, I think Adam is your guy. And I don't think that he was lost in his sort of composure.
Joshua Paladino was the moderator of the Republican debate for the 58th District. The winner of that, August 4th, will be the next representative for the 58th District. And I think whoever you get, it will be different from Eric Lloydhäuser. Eric Lloydhäuser carried a lot of weight. He was an influential person. He was kind of a no-brainer. These guys, you could question Darren Wisely's experience. I know he has a law degree. He hasn't really served in any public capacity, but you can't question his passion. He is serious about Second Amendment rights. He's serious about abortion, and I thought that his passion came through. Andy Weldon, a little bit late to the race. Does that hurt him? We'll see. I don't know much about Andrew Fink. I've never met him personally. I don't know him well. You see a million yellow signs out there. I see the ads when I turn on YouTube. To me, Adam Stockford has a claim from an experience standpoint. He has been the mayor of Hillsdale for a long time. I think a lot of people think he's done a halfway decent job. So it's going to be fun. When you look back at the debate, was there a moment or two that stand out to you that you really liked as a moderator, that you thought, okay, this is instructive for the voters, that they're going to come away from this moment really gaining something valuable?
If I could give a moment for each of the candidates, I would probably say Andy Weldon talking about his family. If you want someone who is passionate about local community, who has extremely deep roots here, Andy Weldon's your guy. I thought Andrew Fink's standout moment was when he said, if the government is telling you that you can't go to church, it's time to go to church. Now, he has not been in Hillsdale nearly as long, and his family's from the Ypsilanti area. But if you want the person who is going to continue the Mike Shirkey, Eric Lloydhäuser tradition, which is knowing the rules and procedures, following them, and trying to make incremental progress for the people of the 58th District, he's your candidate. I thought Darren's standout moment was his attack of Andrew Fink, and his ability to stand up to what he claims are rhinos. And I don't see why he wouldn't take that to Lansing. So if you think that a sort of libertarian bulldog is the right approach, he's your guy. I thought Adam Stockford's standout moment was saying, I am of the people. I am a blue-collar guy. He's really the Trump of Hillsdale, the city of Hillsdale. And his experience on the roads, I think there's really no disputing that he's potentially the best mayor in the state of Michigan in terms of getting roads done. And he's clearly the local control candidate. That's his priority. He's still strong on the social issues, from what I understand, and all the other issues. But if you want someone who has very concrete proposals for bringing power back to the state, or back to the city of Hillsdale, and by the way, he doesn't really seem to have an ideological veneer or anything in the way that Darren and Andrew, they very much know their principles. Adam seems to be more of a Trump guy, where he doesn't really have an ideology. He just wants to talk about specific ways that he can bring power back to the people of Hillsdale.
I've interviewed Mayor Stockford many times. He always talks about his friends and neighbors, and I don't get the feeling that is contrived. I think he feels like he's just one of the citizens. He's trying to help out. I think that serves him well. I thought a tasty moment of the debate was the discussion about impeaching Governor Whitmer, and I was surprised that Andrew Fink said he really wasn't in favor of it. He said, from a practical standpoint, it's never going to happen. So instead of doing what the Democrats did and wasting everybody's time, why go through a process that's never going to actually come to fruition? And of course, Darren jumped right on him and said she needs to go, and talked about the American Revolution and everything else. I mean, that was a standout moment, wasn't it?
I thought so, definitely. That was one place where we saw the division. And this, once again, is not a division about principle or about conservatism, but it's about the type of approach that we should bring to politics and the current situation that we are in. And I thought these candidates gave you 4 different approaches that they were going to bring. And as for the impeachment, probably not going to work. The recall, it's hard to say, because you think that the teachers' unions are going to carry her to another victory. And a lot of teachers aren't actually okay with schools closing and with being masked. At Will Carleton Academy, they are not. I know because my wife was a teacher there and many of my friends are. They don't want to be masked. They don't want their children to be masked. They know the science. They know that children are at essentially zero risk from this disease and that there are no recorded cases of children passing it either to teachers or parents that we've been able to document in the state of Michigan. So they're ready to get back to school, and I don't see why she couldn't lose 20% of the teachers' union votes and lose a recall election. So I don't think that he disqualified a recall election, but he did say if we can't beat her, then why would we try? Well, why not? Why would that attitude be different in 2022? Are we going to be able to beat her in a normal election? Because a recall election just means that the Republicans put up a candidate and we run against her. It's just the people saying we feel that we are so threatened by the policies of this governor. And she is. She is probably one of the worst governors in American history. I think that she is a threat to everything that this district holds dear. The right to work, the right to life, the right to educate our children and go to church as we please, our most fundamental rights. I think the people deserve an election and an attempt to unseat her as quickly as possible.
A couple more things with Joshua Paladino. We appreciate the moderator from that really fascinating 58th District debate for joining us and giving us a few minutes. Do you feel like when people watch the debate, do you feel like minds were changed? Or did the people coming in there rooting for Darren leave rooting for Darren, and the same for all of the other candidates?
I was so nervous when I got there. My first question was going to be, which I forgot, who is here undecided? Right. And I talked after, and we got quite a few people who were undecided or who had come there with a sort of ranking of the candidates, and they left with a different ranking. Oh, or they left with a new person that they were supporting. I could name at least 5 people who are supporting someone different. So I think it was useful in that sense. And it was also, well, yeah, I think a lot of people who were supporting their candidate are more staunch, especially after the attacks, because it's just sort of the psychology of human nature that when you have a candidate and they're attacked, you become a bulldog in defense of them. And you want to do everything you can to ensure that your opinion that you came with tonight was the correct one. But I think when you get people actually in person there rather than on social media, the psychological barriers to changing your mind actually fall down a little bit because you can see someone's face and you can see their reactions and you come together as humans. And if I could just say, this is the importance of local politics. I think that it's important that Republicans elect Donald Trump in November, but Donald Trump is a firewall. He's a dam against the mob rushing in to destroy our country. He is not going to build up our communities. He can't do that. As conservatives, we should say he shouldn't. He doesn't have the power. We have to come together as local communities, build up local politics through our churches, through our civic institutions, by making the Republican Party strong. So I think that it's a good when we come together and we can say, wow, I came here supporting Adam or Darren or Andrew or Andy. But you know what? I think this other person is going to be a better torchbearer. But I will say no matter who wins, I'll be voting for them. I hope that Republicans would say the same. I think they're good people. And I hope some minds were changed for the better. That's the whole purpose of this show and this debate is so that the 58th District can find the best person to do this job.
I think it's interesting that you call Adam Stockford the Trump candidate. I'm going to ask him if he got a small $1 million loan from his dad when he was little and see what he says about that. Since you mentioned it, we'll wrap it up here with Joshua Paladino. Since you mentioned that you talked to 2 of the 3 sheriff's candidates, now there are 4. You want to give me a little handicap of that race? Because I have no feel for it whatsoever.
So I was able to interview John Paul Rutan and Scott Hodshire. Albright didn't come in for an interview, but he will be there for the debate this Saturday at 7 p.m., hopefully at the Hillsdale Community Library at Sozo Church as our backup, just like last time. So please come out to hear that. John Paul Rutan is the anti-administrative candidate. He does not believe that the sheriff's department should be used to enforce the orders of the governor. He does not think that the sheriff has to carry out warrants that the state submits to the sheriff's office. He believes that the Hillsdale County Sheriff's Office is an independent department that is controlled by the people of Hillsdale County for the people of Hillsdale County. He believes that the sheriff's office has the absolute right to interpret the Constitution, both of the federal government and the state of Michigan, for the benefit and for the protection of the people of Hillsdale County. Scott Hodshire is the candidate who wants to create programs to rehabilitate people, work inmate programs, volunteer programs. He wants to restore Neighborhood Watch. So, and he's also, I think he would say he's a constitutionalist as well. Once again, it's both a difference of emphasis and substance. He wants to say, let's primarily focus on building up the sheriff's department, getting more funding, more grants for more programs so that we can build up our community. Rutan believes in self-government under the rule of law. He wants to get rid of as much of that as we can and restore power back to the city level by electing things like constables to carry out searches for, let's say, someone's delinquent on their child support payment. He wants a local elected official to do that, not someone with a gun and a badge. So he wants to drastically reduce the amount of things that we imprison people for and focus more on community and church and civic institution involvement. And he, of course, has showed that through his involvement with the Justice Project, his service in the Army. And Scott Hodshire, of course, has the experience. He was part-time in the police officers, with the police officers, I should say, for years. And so he has that experience. I haven't talked to Mr. Albright, so I won't comment on that at this point.
Wes Luediker was a longtime sheriff's deputy, is a sheriff's deputy. He just was certified as a write-in candidate, an 11th hour candidate. I guess if he gets 70 votes, you may call him crazy like a fox, because if he gets 70 votes, he would actually be on the ballot in November. I don't know if he's a Democrat or just doing this as a technique to get on the ballot in November. I don't know, Wes, but it'll definitely be interesting to see how these shake out. So you have another debate coming up, you say Friday or Saturday? Saturday at 6?
7 p.m., hopefully.
Thanks for straightening me out, Josh. Saturday at 7 at the library, weather permitting. The backup would be Sozo Church. Yep. And you have a commitment from
all three candidates.
But not Luediker, because he's a Dem, so he wouldn't do it.
Yes, this is the Republican primary debate. Some people said we should have Wes. No, we shouldn't. He is a Democrat. We are running against him. We are trying to figure out the best Republican to defeat him. I'm curious what a Democratic policy platform is going to be for a sheriff's office this year. It'll be interesting to see if he's going to sort of take the blue dog route and try to push back against the constitutionalists on the right and say the purpose of the county sheriff's office is to enforce the orders of the governor and the state, or if it'll be interesting to see how he distinguishes himself. And I have a commitment from Rutan to pursue a general election debate. I haven't asked the others about it, so hopefully we can hear from him in late October for that general.
Joshua, you did an outstanding job. I really appreciated the debate. I thought that you carried exactly the right tone. I thought the candidates all stood out in their own way, and I really appreciate you giving us a few minutes to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Andy. I appreciate it.